United States submarine base at Key West, Florida. A dispatch that quoted President Truman's press secretary, Charles Ross, as saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny that such objects.
Hi.
Hi,
My back is broken.
I'm full of gas.
I'm so sick of hurting myself in my sleep.
Yeah, dude, we're fighting wars that we're not even conscious for.
I know it's fucked up, dude. It's fucked up. I was like gonna spoil myself with a little bit of DoorDash, but I'm like, no, bitch, you have to go get a fucking physical therapy massage tomorrow.
Yeah, we just sold our old mattress because it wasn't even old. We just sold our new mattress because it was injuring Oliver.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
my mattress is good. I think for me, it's the way my pillows are set up or the way that I lay on my pillows. I don't know. I just need to be put in a cryogenic tank or something.
when you come over later, you should have Oliver set up that thing. It's like you put your head in it. You've seen the pictures of Oliver with his
Yeah.
head strapped in. We have that. And then he also has this weird shaped pillow that kind of looks like one of those things that you sit on, like an ergonomic butt absorber, but it's a specific pillow and it's supposed to really help. And he doesn't use it very often. So you should come lay on it and see if it's something you would want to either steal or purchase one for yourself.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out because I'm fucking dying. But I digress.
Mhm.
Um, hey, what's up? My name is Noelle, and what am I? I'm honestly so tired, really, but um, I am the stress of trying to make your own delicious latte at home.
Ugh. And I'm Chelsea, and I still yearn for the mines.
Dude, I know. It's I hate I hate to say, like, I've had some of the best coffee at the best coffee shops, world renowned in different places, and I crave the fake flavors of a holiday menu.
Girl, I've been struggling because we have a fairly nice espresso machine at my house, a frother, the works, and I want the sugar-filled anal drippings of the Starbucks holiday menu, but we
I
can't have
know,
it.
I know, I know. It's so tough. It's not so tough. It's just like no one, here's the tea of it. No one is making drinks like them because it's preposterous. It's it's a crime against humanity to put that much sugar in a fucking drink. To make a
Yeah,
sugar cookie latte with peppermint is an abomination and should be illegal. And the
yeah,
only people doing it are Starbucks. No
yeah.
one else is brave enough to make something so vile. And that's the unfortunate truth of it.
It,
Starbucks is an evil company doing evil things with an evil agenda, and that's why they make the liquid heroin that is the holiday menu.
exactly. There are two wolves inside of me. The wolf that sees the pit bull that comes to Bear's Saturday morning school that is in a full harness and full head covered um muzzle because it will kill you and anything that breathes on sight. That dog that in my heart I know will love me because I
Mhm.
have good vibes. That
Mhm.
is the same wolf that I have been feeding Starbucks to, and I can't get rid of it. The white woman in me that knows every dog will love me, that knows that I could pet a polar bear and give it a little kiss on the nose, is run by the greed of the Starbucks Corporation, and now I'm starving it, and I can't. It's it's my culture, really, to be
Yeah,
this basic.
I know it's a bit of an exorcism
My
to
hair is in a messy bun and I've got Uggs in the other room. Do you think I
Mhm.
can don that uniform? That's stolen fucking valor, Noel.
I know. I know. It's tough.
So,
It's tough out here to be a mediocre white woman millennial.
Yeah.
But you know,
Struggling.
we we carry on and we figure it out and we test out different sugar-free syrups at home and are thankful for the gift of choice. But anyway,
I've just been drinking Xanax tea, which is the best thing. So
yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm actually not suffering that bad.
I've also been enjoying I've been making like tea lattes. So I
Mm.
actually Trader Joe's has a maple espresso blend of tea and I've been making that. You use 2 bags to make it just as strong as espresso. I've been making that and then I've been frothing the Trader Joe's brown sugar oat milk creamer.
I'm I am going to Trader Joe's after this
Yeah.
because
So,
now there is one in my vicinity.
yeah, welcome. Welcome to the modern age.
And by
So,
vicinity, I think it's like a half-hour drive, but bitch, I'm going.
and it's worth it. Frankly, it's worth it. So,
We're not going to talk about any of that on unless they have a crepe. I will purchase a crepe. That's the only way I can
they
transition into
do
the
have a
episode.
crepe. I think they have a Nutella crepe that you could try.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I need it.
You should.
Well, I actually have a question for you, Noelle.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had that feeling
What feeling?
that you're walking on a trail or through a field and the trees on either side of you are just a little too quiet and you can't actually hear the footsteps behind you, but your body is absolutely convinced that something is pacing you in the dark?
Yeah, I think it's anxiety.
Yeah, well, it also perhaps yes, and it
Okay.
has another name, Noelle. La Bête du Gévaudan.
Okay.
So in this episode, we're going to the
And we're not
high.
gonna get to know what that means.
Eventually, we will.
Okay.
Well, Bête, I think, is beast, and Gévaudan is a city in France.
Okay. There we go.
So,
That's all we needed.
yeah. So in this episode, we're gonna go to the high, cold, stinky hills of 18th century France to a place that was already hanging on by its fingernails, and then suddenly, children started turning up half-eaten in the fields. The church said it was God, and the king said it was wolves. And the people who actually lived there told anyone who would listen, no, this is something else. This is something that is not supposed to exist. I immediately gave up on the French accent.
Yeah, it's a good call. The church said it was God who was eating the children.
Yeah,
That's heavy metal. Okay. All right.
yeah, a punitive God for the French.
Because I'm having a brain aneurysm, I fear. What's the like iconic Renaissance painting of the Greek god biting the head off of
Oh,
what's that painting?
the Titan. Who was Zeus? What was Zeus's dad's name? Oranos? What was Zeus's dad's name? Cronus. It's Cronus.
Is it?
Oranos, I think, is night.
It's
Cronus.
Saturn. It's Saturn devouring his son.
Oh, well, Zeus is Saturn and it's him eating then no, it's Cronus eating Zeus, I thought.
It's Saturn devouring his son.
Saturn Cronus.
Oh no.
The
It's a traditional depiction of the Greek myth of the Titan Kronos,
Okay, so yes,
who the Romans called Saturn.
Saturn, we're both right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's the episode. No.
Yeah, goodbye everyone.
No, okay.
But to set the record straight, we are on the side of the people tonight.
Got it.
Because the beast is real. And the more that you look at it, the more it starts to feel less like a random animal attack and more like a project, a weapon, a problem someone made on purpose and then tried very, very hard to bury. So put on something cozy, Noelle, and maybe don't actively be chewing while we describe the torn throats as we go to Jean Van Damme. It sounds like Jean Van Damme when
it
I
does
say it
sound like Jean Van Damme, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Bloodsport, best movie ever.
One time I wanted to rent the Johnny Depp movie From Hell that was about the Jack the Ripper, and I think I accidentally got the Jean Van Damme movie In Hell. And my sister and I the whole time were like, when does Jack the Ripper show up? Because I think it's just like him in one of those terrible prisons and he has to fight his way out, and we were super confused.
And that's amazing.
Anyway, first, Noelle, I want you to picture where we're going because it's important that this place feels like a character. Jean Vendôme in the 1760s isn't some storybook French countryside with vineyards and warm stone houses and everyone eating bread or some sort of crepe in soft lighting. It was a cold, harsh province in what is now Lozère and a part of Haute-Loire in the Marzerie Mountains in southern France. The land is high and unforgiving. The soil is thin and rocky, the winters are long, and the forests are thick and dark. Think more windswept stone, scraggly pine, and wolves, and not Emily in Paris.
I'm never thinking about Emily in Paris, but thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to make sure. And the villages are small and scattered. We're talking stone houses with tiny windows, smoky fireplaces, and families who survive by squeezing in what they can out of the cows, sheep, and goats. Kids start working early. If you're 10, 11, or 12, you're very likely out in the fields all day, alone or only with a couple of other kids, walking your animals miles from home. And the wolves are real, not cryptids yet, just wolves. And locals know what a wolf looks like, how it moves, and how close it'll come to a herd. There are stories of attacks because this is a time when wolf attacks across France are actually a big thing and a big problem. And people mostly understand the rules. You're careful, you watch the tree line, and you accept that sometimes nature bites back. Meanwhile, zoom out. I have to pause to cough, by the way.
Before you coughed, I was gonna say that reminds me the townsfolk in France being prepared for wolf attacks reminds me of the very real and current threat. Have you heard about the bear attacks in Japan?
No.
Oh my God. It's
the bears are attacking in Japan?
Yeah, it's
Japan has bears?
Yeah, and it's getting bad. Since April this year, they've killed 13 people, and more than 100 people have been injured by bear attacks.
But no bears have been injured.
I don't think so, but I think that if I remember correctly from the article I read briefly, they are having like a problem with getting people to like help because all of the hunters are like old. So everyone's just like out there getting fucking demolished. And I don't like they're having to deploy the military.
That's crazy.
To try to like help with the bear attacks. And I don't know what is going on to make it surge, but like they're using drone-based surveillance systems that put off alarms to warn the town that a bear's coming because the bear is coming to fucking kill them.
Yeah. Oh, I Googled it. NBC News first article. A grisly warning to Americans. Beware bear attacks in Japan.
Yeah, it's not a joke. It does feel a little grim fairy tales, but it is.
Oh, I want them to leave those poor bears alone, honestly. If you get eaten by a bear, like you're in their playground.
I mean, yeah.
I actually just
What
watched,
was the 57-year-old woman wearing when she was mauled by the bear?
You're so right. You're so right.
I was recipes.
No, fuck her. What was she wearing? No, for real, just kidding. But I will blame the victim in this sense. I was watching a history of executions, and in China, they'll kill you for killing a panda bear. So that's the same energy I want here.
That is fair. That is fair.
It doesn't bother me at all, honestly.
Okay. Well,
it doesn't bother me. I'm not saying I approve of the death penalty, but I do approve of the death penalty. If you kill a panda bear, I want to see you lit the fuck up.
I know. My PR response is that I don't believe in the death penalty because even if one innocent person is put to death, it makes the whole thing corrupt. But my real answer is that pedophiles should be put to death, and if you kill a panda bear, you should be put to death.
Yeah, we agree.
So, anyway.
Anyway, we got to zoom out because France as a whole is just straight up not having a good decade. The 7 Years' War has gone terribly. The country's been humiliated by Britain and Prussia. They've lost money and colonies. King Louis the 15th looks weak and out of touch, and people are tense. The church is still enormously powerful, and there's a strong current of if something bad happens, it's because God is angry with you.
They love that one over in Europe.
And bad shit was happening all the time because it released the rich and elite and the powerful from any obligation to take care of the poor because their hands were clean. My life is going fine because I have money and power on my side, and I'm going to use that to keep you down, but don't blame me, blame God.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a remote region, already vulnerable, very religious, very isolated, living shoulder to shoulder with wolves and poverty. And over all of that, a monarchy and a church that are extremely motivated to keep control of the narrative. So the perfect laboratory for conditions for something horrible. You made me feel bad about saying laboratory, so now I say laboratory.
Thank God. Bullying
Bullied me out.
works.
I was just gonna say the bullying. You bullied me out of it.
Bullying works, everybody.
So the story officially begins in the summer of 1764. There's a young woman about town named Mercoire. Or let me back up. Public school. A young woman is out in the Mercoire forest.
There we go.
Near the town of Langognan. Oh, there's so much French in this episode.
Yeah, you
so
really
everyone
fucked
stick with me.
yourself on that.
Yeah. So she's doing what countless other women and girls have done, which is watch over the cattle as they graze along the edge of the trees. The forest is quiet in that uncanny way that makes your skin itch, and the herd snorts and shifts, and she hears something. And from the tree line, a shape bursts out. She later describes it as like a wolf, yet not a wolf. And it's big, not big dog big, but small calf big. It was huge, had a heavy head with jaws that looked too large for its neck, and rows of long teeth. Its chest was broad and deep. The front half of its body was over muscular compared to the back. The fur was reddish, a tawny color with a dark stripe running down its spine. And its tail is longer and thicker than a normal wolf's tail. And it moves like a cat's, whipping in big, deliberate arcs as it runs. And it charges, not at the cattle, but at her. And you can imagine in that moment, the split second where she realizes, oh, babe, I'm the prey. She doesn't have a musket. She doesn't have a spear. She just has some very confused, but apparently heroic bulls.
Wow.
They come to the rescue. Bless them. They react. They bunch together, lower their heads. And when the thing lunges at her, they surge forward as a wall of bone and muscle. And they drive it back once. And it comes around. It circles her again. And they charge again, hooves pounding, horns slamming towards this oversized, not wolf. And finally, it jerks away and disappears back into the trees. She survives. She goes home and she tells people what she saw. The size, the color, the speed, and the way it ignored the cattle and came straight for her throat. They nod, they listen, and then like every horror movie ever, they decide, girl, it was just a wolf, calm down. And within weeks, that becomes much, much harder to say with a straight face.
You want to know what's a bummer to think about?
Hmm.
That these like bulls saved her life and then they probably still slaughtered them.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It makes the other day, a cow chased bear along a fence line while I was driving and it scared the shit out of bear. And I was like, it just wants to play or it's trying to scare us off. But they are just such a cute little animal that have so much life and personality in them. And yet we just grind them down every day into literal fucking fat blood and meat and sinew.
Some would also say that's a metaphor for what we do to everyone working a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So
we really are trash.
I know.
So on June 30th, 1764, a 14-year-old shepherdess named Jeanne Boulet is watching her flock near the hamlet of Les Ubank, not far from Langyong. When she doesn't come home, they go looking for her. And when they find her, or what's left of her, is torn, mangled, and partially eaten. And this is recorded in parish documents as the first official victim of the beast. And the priest writes that she was killed by a la bête féroce. or the ferocious beast.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous pronunciation there.
Thank you. Really, you should be reading this because you had the 2 years of French or whatever, not me, but I digress. The wording here is important, Noel, because if the parish register is already confidently calling it a ferocious beast, it implies that Jean was not necessarily the first victim, but just the first one that they dared to name. And over the next few weeks, more bodies appear. A 15-year-old girl named Puy Laurent was mauled so badly that she only had time to gasp out that it looked like a not wolf before she dies. A boy named Laval, when they find him, his throat has been ripped out, his body partially devoured, and then a pattern starts to emerge. The victims are often women and children, alone or in small groups, working in fields or walking between villages. The wounds are focused on the head and neck, throats torn open, faces shredded, and sometimes entire heads removed. And this is just more than a predator because it looks like rage. It looks like something that likes to play with its food. And word spreads fast, faster than honestly you think it would in the 1760s. And this is where the press gets involved. Parisian newspapers started printing sensational accounts of a monstrous creature in the wild south, this Bête du Gévaudan that devours shepherdesses and rips children to pieces. People in cities are reading about it over breakfast, while the actual peasants in Gévaudan are just trying to get through the day without being disemboweled. Aren't we all, babe?
You know what I will say? You got to give it to the French to actually blame a beast rather than just the person in the town with the most melanin. It's kind of going against like UK norms.
Yeah. I mean, I would just also say stereotypical France. I don't think they had that many people with melanin in a small region. But
if
they did, they didn't blame it on them. And I like that they're not blaming it on the wolves. It's so easy. Like when we look at all of the shit that happens in like alien abductions or any supernatural forces or activities, oftentimes they just want to blame it on the local wildlife. And then they throw all pattern and reason out the window. Why can't it just be a fucking beast sometimes?
I mean, yeah, why can't it be a beast sometimes? Everyone has lost their childlike sense of wonder and it shows.
And I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Not here. Not
No,
today.
Not here.
So if this all were just carnage, it would already be terrifying. We've seen, have you ever seen like Ghosts in the Darkness or whatever about the two lions that went feral and they made a Val Kilmer movie about it? Sometimes that happens and it's scary, right? But let's add in the context of it being a deeply religious time and place, because that is how you get the next twist. So the Bishop of Mons stepped in and said, hey, have you tried blaming yourselves about all this?
Every day.
So, yeah, I already know. And the bishop at the time is Gabriel Florent de Choiseul-Beaupré. Gabe, we're going to call him Gabriel for short.
Sure.
And he has issues. And he issues what is basically an official "you made God mad" letter. He blames the beast as a divine punishment for the people of Gévaudan. He orders 40-hour devotions, public acts of penance, and urges everyone to examine their consciences because clearly, if a giant murder creature is eating your kids, someone's been naughty. So
yeah, that's where Krampus came from.
It's beautiful, right? I think that's where all of our own self-guilt comes from.
Yeah.
So imagine that you're a mother who's just buried your 14-year-old daughter who was ripped to pieces, and the bishop is like, this is on you. And instead of who brought this thing here, the question becomes, what did we do to deserve this?
You know, not a lot of people are asking themselves this anymore. Not a lot of people are saying, like, what did we do to deserve environmental collapse? What did we do to deserve Trump? What did we do to, you know what I mean? And we've lost this. We've lost self-pity and blame, and we've lost shame, frankly.
We got to bring it back,
I say.
So from a conspiracy perspective, it's really interesting because something very physical is happening. There's no denying that. People are literally being torn apart in fields. But the church's first move is to take that fear and alchemize it into guilt and obedience. You don't look out in the woods. You look inward at your own sin. You pray more and you shut the fuck up. So while everyone is praying and repenting and clutching rosaries, the bodies keep piling up. Between 1764 and 1767, depending on the source, the beast is linked to somewhere between 60 and 100 deaths, possibly more, and well over 100 attacks.
Damn.
One later study even says that it was around 210 attacks, 113 deaths, and 49 injuries, with most of the dead being only partially eaten. Women and children, especially girls, make up the majority of the victims.
Wow, the patriarchy strikes again.
Fucking, this is the real beast of the Bible is the patriarchy. So there are stories of a woman whose face is torn away so completely that she's unrecognizable. There are stories of children whose small bodies are found in pieces with the organs missing, lips, probably lips, but I meant to say limbs being stripped clean. 16 victims, some sources say, were decapitated, literally found with their heads removed. And this is the point where people really did stop calling it a big wolf. And this is where La Bête really came into the cultural zeitgeist. And some may say it became the devil. But Jean Vendôme is just not passive victimhood. There are people, kids even, who fight back, which, if we're viewing this beast as some kind of experiment in fear, is a wrinkle because the peasants keep refusing to die correctly. So, January 12th, 1765, there is a 10-year-old boy named Jacques Portefeuille who is out with a group of kids watching cattle near their village. And I love the resilience of these people. We got to keep sending the kids to the fields.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to go out there.
No, I got shit to do within the confines of my own home.
That's what I'm saying.
If I'm alive at this time, I am on my 18th pregnancy by the age of 19. And I've already hit middle age.
Yeah. You're about to die. You're on death's doorstep. You're going to enjoy the time you have.
I'm in my twilight years. I'm sundowning. Leave me alone. So, La Viraille d'Apcher. So hard to say. In the Margeride, 7 or 8 children, mostly around 10 or 11. It's cold, they're bored, and they're probably poking each other around with sticks and daring one another to get closer and closer and closer to the woods. And this time the beast appears. It charges the group, and this time, instead of scattering in panic, Jacques yells at the others to form a tight cluster and point their sticks outward like a hedgehog of tiny humans. Every time the beast rushes them, the kids jab at it and shout to stay together. Snaps at him, tries to pull one boy away, but they hold the line, slamming their sticks and farm tools into its face and chest, screaming so loudly that the nearby adults come running. And eventually the beast backs off and vanishes into the trees, and all of the children survive. It's a very 300 moment.
It is very 300. It is also very, this is how you survive a horror movie. You don't say, let's split up and investigate the noise. You say, let's form a human wall and everyone has a spear.
It's the same thing with D&D. You never split the party.
Yeah.
So, and I love that they all banded together. It's also interesting, like, the bulls did it first. Why wouldn't you learn the first fucking time around? That's how dumb humans are.
Yeah, I mean, classic.
So the story of their heroism reaches King Louis XV, and the crown, suddenly very interested, grants Jacques and his friends a reward. He's actually promised an education at the state's expense. And the press loves it. A plucky little shepherd boy and his friends fight off a hell wolf, and the king nods benevolently. But this is the first time that the monarchy really steps into the story in a public way. And it does so by rewarding a narrative of bravery that conveniently shows off how merciful and engaged Louis is with his subjects. And the optics are, yes, there might be a murder beast loose in the woods. But look how good our king loves his brave little peasants. But the beast, meanwhile, doesn't care about optics, cares about killing, Noel. Later that year, in August of 1765, a young woman named Marie-Jeanne Vallée is walking with her sister near a waterway called the Des.
Oh, wow. I love watching you sit and look at your own, like,
my own fucking phonetic
your own
spelling.
phonetic spelling and be like, what the hell does that say?
Well, because it's spelled Desges, and the phonetic spelling of it is Dayzh.
Also, this woman's name sounds so familiar as I undo it.
Oh my God, you're fucking up my notes.
It sounds so familiar. Why? Why do I know that
Are you
name?
thinking like Jean-Paul Gaultier?
No.
Okay. Noelle's talking about Marie-Jeanne Vallée.
Yeah, Marie-Jeanne Vallée. The last name Vallée seems like,
Well, Vallée sounds like Boulay, and I have been watching a lot of Drag Race
I
lately.
mean, same, but why do I know that? Hmm.
I don't know. I wish you would look up the pronunciation of the Days River. Regardless, Noelle, they are crossing a shallow point.
Okay.
Probably talking about extremely normal things when the beast comes for him. Marie Jean is carrying a long wooden staff with a bayonet strapped to the end, basically a makeshift spear. And when the beast lunges, she doesn't run. She plants her feet on the slick stones of the river, braces, and this enormous red-brown thing with huge jaws and whipping tail comes flying at her. She drives the bayonet straight into his chest. And the beast lets out a sound that multiple witnesses compare to a horse's scream,
Whoa.
kind of a high, tearing shriek that does not belong in a canine throat and falls in the river. And a horse's scream. We've heard it. Watch any Disney movie. There's thrashing, churning, blood in the current, and Marie thinks she's probably killed it. But after a few seconds, the thing drags itself back up, limps into the trees, and vanishes. And from that day on, she is remembered as La Pucelle de Gévaudan, or the Maid of Gévaudan, or La Amazon, the Amazon. That's been the easiest one to say so
There
far.
you go.
There is literally a statue of her now, spear in hand, beast at her feet. And the official monster hunters at this point still haven't managed to do what this 19-year-old girl did on a random Wednesday. Which brings us to them. Because you know who really hates being shown up by teenage girls and shepherd girls? The fucking French crown. So the king starts sending in professionals. First comes Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel with a squadron of dragoons, basically mounted soldiers and local volunteers. They organize big hunts, they tromp through the woods, fire muskets at shadows, and they kill a lot of wolves, unfortunately.
Mm.
They pose dramatically on the hillsides with their guns, as one does, but the beast keeps on killing, and sometimes reportedly right under their noses. Then Louis brings in celebrity wolf hunters, Jean-Charles Marc-Antoine Vom El Daneval and his son. They arrive with bloodhounds that have already been trained to hunt specifically wolves. And their expectation is basically, okay, now the big kids are here, they're going to sort it all out. But the beast continues aggressively to not be sorted. In June of 1765, the king finally sends in his big gun, literally Francois Antoine, his lieutenant of the hunt, and 70-something royal gun bearers who have hunted practically anything on four legs. On September 20th, 1765, Antoine and his team shoot a massive wolf near the Abbey of Chaz. And it is huge. It is a big wolf. It is Jacob-sized.
Perfect.
And it looks strange enough and threatening enough that they decide that this has to be La Bête. And there are reports that when they open the stomach, they find human remains. The carcass is stuffed and sent to Versailles as a trophy. Antoine is rewarded with money and titles. Their celebrations, the beast is declared dead, problem solved. And if this were a neat little fairy tale, that would be the end of it. The king's hunter slays the monster, the villagers rejoice, the credits roll. But podcast for deviants and nerds, obviously fucking not the end. Because by December of that same year, the people start dying again. And the new wave of attacks looks disturbingly familiar. Women and children torn apart in fields, throats ripped out, heads and faces targeted. Eyewitnesses who see the creature between attacks describe the same overall look. Big as a calf, wolf-like but wrong, reddish fur with a dark stripe down its long back, long, strong tail, jaws too big for its head. The beast is not only back, not only not dead, but it's back with a vengeance. And at this point, it's where official reality and lived reality fucking part ways. Officially, the king's hunter has killed the beast. The papers in Paris have announced it. The trophy wolf has been displayed. To backtrack now would mean admitting failure and not just, oops, we messed up, but oops, the countryside is still crawling in something we don't understand and can't control even after we spend a ton of money and manpower on killing it. So the crown sort of looks away. The next 2 years of killings do not get any of the same energetic royal response. And if your boots on the ground in Gévaudan, though it's technically over, that narrative from the crown is insultingly ridiculous because kids are still being mangled, parents are still burying pieces of their children, hunters are still finding footprints, scat, signs of something too large and too fearless to be a normal wolf. And it's around now that you start hearing the whispers about there being something more to the beast. A pair of them, a mother and young, or a pack of unusually large coordinated killers. People start seeing the beast with a second similar creature, dear God, they're breeding. And others say the range is too big for a single animal. But there's another whisper, quieter and much more interesting, that whatever the thing is, it's not just some freak of nature. There's a human hand in it.
It's a werewolf.
I don't know. Enter Jean Chastel. Jean Chastel is a local farmer and hunter from the village of La Bessère Saint-Marie. And in some tellings, he's a pious and humble guy. In others, he's prickly and antisocial. But he definitely knows the land. And he's already crossed paths with the royal hunters. One account says that Francois Antoine actually threw him in prison briefly for leading his men into a bog during an earlier hunt. So there's bad blood there. And by 1767, the locals are done waiting for outside help. So a noble by the name of Marquis d'Apcher organizes a large hunt using men who actually live in the area. And it is during one of these hunts on June 19, 1767, on the slopes of Montmouchet, that Chastel is said to have finally have brought the beast down. The most famous version of the story goes like this. Chastel goes out in the forest with his gun and a special bullet. Before loading, he kneels and prays, reciting the rosary. And the bullet, in the later legend, is made of silver.
Sure.
Melted down from the religious medals of the Virgin Mary.
Okay, a little ridiculous.
And when the beast appears, Chastel does not flinch. Like though little girls before him, he too stands his ground, lets it come into range, and fires once. The beast drops, dead. And when they open the carcass, some accounts say they find human remains in the stomach. Its body is examined by a surgeon named Boulanger in the chateau of the Marquis d'Apcher. And the necropsy report, known as the Marine report, notes features that don't quite match a normal wolf. But after this, finally, the attacks stop. The beast, we are told, once again, is dead. And the corpse is also, unfortunately, really badly preserved because by the time it eventually is sent towards Versailles, it's rotting. And some say it never actually reaches the king, and whatever is left of it eventually disappears. So there's no skull in a museum, no skeleton in a drawer we can DNA test. It dissolves back into the earth and into the story. And that should be the end. But if you ever seen a conspiracy cork board, you know this is actually where all of the red string enters and begins. Because when you pull back and look at the whole picture, we have 3 years of terror, multiple slain beasts, religious blame, royal PR, and a final kill by a complicated local guy with a maybe silver bullet. And you're left with the uncomfortable feeling that we're only really scratching the surface here. So let's talk about what this thing looked like, what the people think it was, and why none of the tidy explanations actually feel satisfying if you take the witnesses seriously. Because the eyewitness description of La Bête are weirdly consistent, considering that they're coming out of different villages, ages, and levels of education. When you average them out, you get a creature that is about the size of a small horse, reddish brown, the dark stripe running down its fur or a ridge on its back. The fur on its head and legs is shorter and sometimes described as deer-colored. The chest is massive and deep with huge shoulders that gives it a kind of front heavy silhouette. The head itself is big and elongated with a huge mouth and visible oversized teeth. The ears are pointed and stand upright. The tail is long, strong, and actively used. People say it whips through the air like a cat's tail and that it can knock people over. And some accounts say that the paws end in long, almost talon-like claws. And one of my favorite descriptions says its cry sounds more like the horse's neigh than a wolf's howl. Behavior-wise, it hunts like an ambush predator. It stalks, rushes, and goes straight for the throat. Victims are grabbed by the neck and shaken and dragged, and many have their faces and heads mauled so badly that it's barely identifiable. It ignores livestock in favor of humans, specifically, as we said, women and children. It attacks in broad daylight and is bold enough to come into open fields and roads where people are near. Over and over, people report that it gets shot at, hit, or stabbed, and then simply shrugs it off and runs away. So, what is it? The skeptical historians, or the ones who want to sleep at night, lean hard on wolves. But again, we talked about these people know what a fucking wolf looks like. They have dealt with wolves so often that it is ingrained in their culture. They have dealt with wolves so often that they send their children into the fields. It's just simply not a problem that they worry about. That France at the time did have a serious wolf problem, and that mass hysteria in the press could have magnified otherwise normal wolf attacks into a legend of a single monstrous beast. And maybe there were big wolves. Maybe people simply misremembered or dramatized the details. But the people of Gévaudan lived with wolves all their lives. One letter from Jacques Portefeuille himself years later flat out says that this beast is not a wolf. I have already seen the wolves in the forests here. So now the lion theory is one of the most popular alternatives.
Really? A lion?
Well, the idea that the beast was actually a young male lion that escaped from a private menagerie or a traveling show owned by some nobler merchant. A lion could explain the size. It could explain the chest and shoulders. It could explain the reddish fur with a mane-like ruff, the preference for grabbing prey by the throat and the weird, not quite wolf head shape. And it might even explain the strange cry, but I don't buy it.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
Then you have the striped hyena theory. Some 18th century engravings and descriptions do look like a hyena with a sloping back and big shoulders, the shaggy mane, and the thick tail. And striped hyenas do exist in North Africa and the Middle East, so it is technically possible that one could have been imported as an exotic curiosity and then escaped. There's also the war dog theory. A huge mastiff or maybe armored wearing dog, a spiked harness that changes the outline that was trained to attack humans, or a wolf dog hybrid bred for aggression that got out of control. A dog would explain its comfort around human spaces and its refusal to back down even when outnumbered. And some accounts of Jean Chastel's involvement suggest that it may have been his dog that he had to go out and destroy when things got too hard.
Fuck.
But every single one of these theories only explains some things and leaves others disturbingly unresolved.
They're also stupid.
Yeah. 0 of them account for the decapitations. 0 of them account for the sheer brutality of the injuries. And none of them go into the weird, almost ritualized focus on the head and neck. None of them cleanly explain why the official, we killed it, here it is, look at the stuffed carcass moment somehow does not stop the killing. And most importantly, none of them explain the behavior of the humans in power around all of this. Because here's the part where the conspiracy really gets fun. And it's the way that the church and the crown moved around the beast that looks exactly how you would move if you didn't just fear something, but you actually really fucking needed it. Because think about the timing.
Implanted beast to make people go back to church?
Yeah, think about the timing. The beast appears in 1764 in a region that is remote, but not irrelevant. France has just lost a major war, and the monarchy's prestige is damaged. People are nervous, angry, and questioning. And what better way to test how you can use horror to redirect attention than a rural province whose suffering won't immediately destabilize France? A monster that preys on vulnerable people, women, children, and shepherds is unleashed in a place that already has wolves, so you have plausible deniability built in. It's exotic enough to be terrifying, but similar enough to existing predators that you can blame nature on if you have to. Then you sit back and watch. You watch how quickly panic spreads, how the local priests write about it, how the bishop frames it as punishment, how the press in Paris and beyond picks it up and turns it into a national obsession. And the beast of Gévaudan becomes one of the first modern media monsters, engraved, printed, and talked about as far away as other countries. And while the people of Gévaudan are genuinely terrified, genuinely burying torn children, the people who control information are learning, oh, if we give this thing a simple name and a vivid description and a moral and, it will travel on its own. We're going to fucking create a tulpa here. And the bishop uses it to reinforce religious obedience. Prayer will keep happening. The king uses it to stage heroic hunts and reward brave peasants, shoring up his image as a protective father. Newspapers sell copies hand over fist, and whoever actually brought the beast here, if it was brought, gets to see in real time just how a powerful combination of blood and story can be. And you can call that a supernatural experiment if you want. You can call it an early psychological operation. But either way, the beast stops being just an animal and becomes an experiment. And then at some point, the instrument stops being useful. Maybe the body count gets too high, or maybe outrage threatens to crystallize into anger at authorities for not stopping it. Maybe someone close to power realizes that if the beast kills the wrong person, then the whole house of cards will come falling down. So suddenly it becomes very convenient that a local hunter, someone tangled up in early hunts, someone who knows the land and the people, manages to be the one to kill it cleanly. And the evidence that might prove what it really was, rots away conveniently on the road to Versailles. So if I were writing this fiction, an editor would probably tell me that's a little too on the nose. But history has never met a plot hole it didn't like. Because there's one more layer to this, and it's what Noelle and I like to call the spoopy code. The symbolic patterns that creep in when you look at the story like a ritual instead of random tragedy. So the reign of the beast lasts around 3 years. Stick with me, Noelle.
Oh, here we go.
3 is a very satisfying number in Christian symbolism. 3 years of killings, confessions, prayers, hunts, and finally a silver bullet and a corpse and a narrative of the triumph. The victims are weak and poor, girls and children in fields, families who can't afford to hire adult men to watch their herds, and the beast's preferred prey becomes a symbol in and of itself. Not just killing, it's punishing those with the least power. And this organized penance, 40-hour devotion rituals, mass prayers, public admonitions to repent, the terror outside in the woods is mirrored by a kind of ritual terror inside the churches. And Marie-Jeanne stabbing the beast in the river reads like something out of a saint's life. A woman with a spear standing in between evil and her community, Jacques and his friends fighting off a cluster with their small bodies of sticks looks like a morality painting about courage and unity. And even, Jean Chastel's silver bullet, the detail that some think he maybe made up, but the fact that it sticks tells you just how badly people wanted this to be a werewolf story. Silver prayers and a single righteous man in the woods. It's a liturgy of as much as it is legend. So the beast enters a popular imagination, not just as a big scary dog, but as a kind of divine or demonic instrument. It's God's scourge, the devil's emissary. It's a forest's revenge. It's a manifestation of France's sins after the war. You can pick your metaphor because they all work. And as we are still telling this story in movies and series and metal songs and podcasts like this one, it still is going to refuse to die. Because every time we talk about a shadow in a tree line or a pattern of killings or a government cover up, we're feeding La Bête a little bit more in our imagination. Which, if you're the kind of person who sees this as an experiment in fear, that's exactly the point. So what exactly do I think the Beast of Gévaudan was? Well, if you put me in a corner and make me pick, I do think there was a real animal there, and maybe more than one. Exotic predator is fun, either imported by nobles as a status of symbol, that they quote unquote lost, or deliberately released by someone with more power than sense. And I think that an animal modified in some way through breeding, collars, armors that made it harder to kill and gave it a weird silhouette is fun. But I think that the hybrids, the wolf dogs might have been involved in this attack, maybe even later attacks, could have been copycats. But I think that human cruelty absolutely amplified whatever nature started. But on top of that physical reality, I think that the church and the crown recognized almost immediately that they had something they could use, that the people's terror could be directed towards God and the king, away from political grievances, and toward a shared enemy with a conveniently simple shape. They poured sermons and proclamations and hunts into rewards into shape until it became bigger than any single animal.
So you're saying this is the village?
I am absolutely saying this is the fucking village.
This is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
And does this not sound copy-paste exactly what we saw with COVID?
What, making like a big monster?
Is COVID not the beast that the government created and unleashed on the people to try to get us? And now look at what we have, the fucking trad wife,
Mm, yeah.
the moving back in, clean girl aesthetics is now coming in. How many times are things put out to try to get everyone to reset to zero? I think that the government lines us up and lets us fucking die, dude, so that we can either get in line. I mean, why are women who sit there and pop out babies and talk about this trad wife thing being hailed as the pinnacle of what we all should be?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, we have these crazy events happening where Kirk gets shot in the fucking neck, and now we're seeing even more men coming out and being like, "I want to be like him."
Yeah.
Boot on our neck, dude. The beast, sacre bleu. The beast is nothing than another fucking boot on our neck.
That's tea. That's tea, girl.
And Jean Chastel, he's the fucking cleanup man. I'm sure he was part of it at some point, and I'm sure he knew more than he ever said. But I really don't think he was a hunter who got lucky with his little Mary silver bullet. I think he was the last human tether between us and the thing that walked in those woods, and we don't get to question him because the corpse was already rotting and the king was already bored. So, what we're left with 260 years later are parish records, newspaper clippings, a few engravings, the statue of a girl with a spear, and the feeling that if you were alone in the Marguerite hills at dusk and something big and fast broke from the tree line, your body would recognize it. Because that's the part of this that feels almost too honest. Those people knew what wolves looked like, and they insisted over and over this is not a wolf. Maybe it was a lion or a hyena, maybe it was a dog in armor, a war beast on a leash, but maybe it was something that slipped out of myth and into the physical world for a few seasons and then slipped back in. Either way, the people knew it was the wrong and they knew it was the other. And here's some small act of solidarity that comes to listening to them and refusing to smooth this story down into it was just wolves and superstition, but we want to let it stay sharp and strange and bleeding at the edges. Because we've all had that feeling where we're walking down a dark road and we feel, without any reasonable evidence, that something is pacing you because we all
Yeah.
know that beasts are still there.
I usually just think it's a man.
Dude, man is the scariest thing out in the wild for sure. But if you see it and it doesn't look like an over if it doesn't look like an oversized wolf lion with horse screams and whip tails, there are still things moving in the margins of our maps, things that prey on the vulnerable, while people in power tell us comforting stories about how it's all in God's hands. And look, didn't we already shoot the monster last month? Jean Vendon teaches us to look twice, to listen to the folks in the fields, not the guy with the big hat in the press release. So the next time you hear branches crack on an empty trail and you feel the hair lift on the back of your neck, just remember somewhere in the cold, rocky hills of France, they still tell stories about the beast. And kids still grow up with that name tasting like iron and pine needles in their mouths. And there are museums and statues and nighttime tourist walks where people look into the trees and half jokingly say, what if it came back? And if the beast was ever more flesh, if it was a project of ritual or a weapon made of fear, then honestly, it never left. It just learned to read the news. So, Noelle, I'm going to throw it back to you before I start side eyeing my own hallway. But did I make you fear France, or were you already fucking afraid, Noelle?
No, I've always really liked France and their whole use of the guillotine. I think they're really fun for that.
Yeah, honestly, I like the idea of France. I do like the guillotine. I like the idea of this being some lab created monster that the French elite unleashed on their citizens. Maybe it was a lion that bred with a hyena that they bred with a fucking mastiff, dude. I think that this was and then they just made it worse.
I mean, I even like the idea of it being the village. Like it's a man-made monster, even if it is like man hiding under it or under something, even if it's like a fucking, a little tank with fur on top of it, some sort of a rudimentary animatronic, I even think to like how we look at CGI in the early years of it and we're like, wow, this is so real. And now we look at it and we're like, that's ridiculous. Maybe it was the same thing. It was some rudimentary looking man-made monster. And by man-made, I mean like man inside of it using it as
Yeah.
like like
They
a
put
like a
they put the
machine.
Trojan horse on a bike and then they unleashed that man into the woods.
Exactly. Like there's part of me that wants to believe it's almost a copy paste of The Village, that it's this actual man under a cloak in a monster suit, um causing actual tangible death and violence to keep the town subservient to the traditions that it adheres to.
Hmm.
There is part of me that really likes that ideal. I don't even think it has to be like some fucking mad scientist breeding of monsters. I think it could even be as easy as like just, you know, people playing tricks.
Yeah, I mean, Trump let himself get pretend shot in the ear just for the optics.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
We've done and seen crazier things happen for less.
you know what? Maybe this dog was the pit bull that comes to Bear's classes that won't let anyone pet him. Maybe he has been alive this whole time
Yeah,
and he
maybe.
lives on.
Maybe. That's fun
Well,
though.
until then, we will see you in another dark corner of history.
Nice ending there. I like this. I like the conspiracy that it really is the village. I think that's a very fun one. It is a 1700s version of what we have now with the like staged violence and patriotism to wean us back into the closets of subservience and traditional quote unquote 1950s WASP values.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too that it really didn't kill anyone important. It just killed the quote unquote most.
Most vulnerable. Well, women
Yeah,
and children are important. They're the first to get on the Titanic when it's the
yeah,
saving ship. So, but no, I know what you mean. Like, obviously, in that era, if a man was to be killed, it would be like, oh, the town's falling apart. But they're like, oh, just some girl, whatever.
yeah, exactly. It's like who can we test on who's expendable? Who can be the lab rats?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
girls and the kids.
So interesting. That's a little fun one.
It was fun. And I like the little drawings of it. This one's a fun one to just look up.
I didn't even
This
look up drawings of it.
really?
I was
It
trying
looks
to
like a beast.
I was trying to imagine it in my mind's eye, honestly.
Like, look at this little guy. I'm gonna send it to you on Slack. Oh my God. Does the new Google thing like sometimes try to do image search when you're really just trying to grab the image and it like opens a whole new tab? Anyway, look at that little guy. I just sent you
That
on Slack.
is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. That is not what my mind imagined. Wow. Okay.
And then here's
That
the statue of the girl stabbing it.
that has the face of like a vole
Yeah. It kind of looks, there's like a bunch of
and bird
depictions of
feet.
it. Yeah, this one's the funnest one actually. This one's my favorite. This one it actually looks like a really cute little beast.
Oh.
Um, I mean they're
Oh,
yeah, doesn't that look neat?
this one looks more like your classic demon or maybe like dragon face.
Yeah, with the huge eyes and then like the Gyarados open mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting. Wow. Wow, I love that. The statue is cunty. That is pretty badass. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's cool as hell.
you can hate religion and still think Joan of Arc is fucking badass. Same with this bitch.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I tried to get my niece to be super into Joan of Arc. But
Like, was she probably an undiagnosed schizophrenic who was having hallucinations? Yeah. But is it still a badass story? For sure.
yeah,
Same with
don't
this.
yuck. We gotta stop yucking people's yum.
Yeah,
So I
I
think that's what
agree.
they say.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say. And speaking of what they say, we say you should go into the link tree that's in all of our bios. We are at Go to Hell Podcast. I'm at Noelle Fain. She is at Sith Lord. And you can click that link and it'll open up stuff. It'll open up our Patreon. $1 gets you in. Spoiler on the Patreon of what we're going to cover next. A very fun little topic. Very fun little historical deep dive. I might have to try to squeeze some readings in, some historical texts that
Oh yeah,
are banned in the United States. So
it's gonna be
excited
heavy lifting.
excited for that. You can also find a link to our merch. 100% of proceeds are donated. We have cool stuff in there made by Kelly Holloran or at Wildwood Owl on Etsy. Check that out. Also check out the art that she makes in general. We have a link to YouTube where you should bully us in the comments because we don't get monetized there because we
Mhm.
curse too much.
Yep.
We also have a link to listen to us, which is anywhere podcasts are heard.
You nailed it.
I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and give a hail to The Village by M. Night Shyamalan. I think it's one of the best movies ever and underrated, and people hated it because it's groundbreaking, beautiful cinema. And I think that he probably took some inspiration from this story, honestly.
Ooh, and I'm gonna say hail to the article that I read last night about After Earth, the failed Will Smith movie with his son. They said that they only got M. Night Shyamalan to direct it so that if it went bad, they could just blame it on M. Night Shyamalan because that was kind of
Wow.
the running at the time.
I mean, I think that a lot of people are now using him as a scapegoat, just like in The Beach That Makes You Get Old. I feel like that was someone else's shitty idea and they just put him on it. He wants a
Yep,
check, and I don't blame him.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. So,
so that's that on that. Well, you know, I think we should just get the fuck out of here.
yeah, let's get the fuck out of here.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.